Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, persons of all ages, welcome to the most exclusive group in the wrestling community. And now, your hosts, first, from Oahu, Puerto Rico, Macho Rodriguez, and his tag team partner from Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, God's Gift, Tyler.
Feliz Dia de los Reyes, everybody. Today is a very special day. It is the Day of the Three Kings, and in Hispanic and Latino cultures all over the world, we celebrate this day. I'm not going to go into it. You can do an easy Google search if you want to find out what the Day of the Three Kings means. But welcome to another edition of Must Love Wrestling, as Tyler and I are going to give you a short show. And we are going to just jump right into the massive details of wrestling that happened this week. But before we get started, Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Very excited to share this day with the children. The Jibarito, which is something that we that brings the gifts to baby Jesus, brought Arthur his very first Swiss Army knife. So he's very excited. Yes, he's got the traditional with the file, the super small blade, and the little scissors. So he's been trying to cut as many branches in the yard as possible today.
Okay.
He's just having fun. Yeah, so why don't we jump into this past week? We had WWE Day 1, and as you all know, The Rock has made his return. Now, we did have a conversation about this on Working the Marks on Tuesday, but we didn't talk about it here on our show for our fans. So, Tyler, before we jump into the potential of a WrestleMania shakeup, or before we talk about what this could mean for Cody Rhodes, why don't you tell us about your feelings about The Rock returning?
So I didn't really get into this on Working the Marks because I felt like I'd be flamed if I did, but I'm not a big Rock fan. So to me, it's like, again, really, I'm not excited. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm of the mindset I am very excited about The Rock's return, and I was excited just based on nostalgia alone and what he means to me. But then yesterday, when I got out of work, I opened Twitter. And when I opened Twitter, I saw somebody post a really great comment on WrestleMania and every decade's WrestleMania, and I thought to myself, I think I'm going to pull a Chris Broussard, and I think I'm going to flip-flop my choice for WrestleMania this year. So why don't I tell you what I read, and then you give me your insight as to if this is something that you actually want to see.
Okay.
So for WrestleMania 10, they made it very clear that three men were vying for one championship. You had Lex Luger versus Yokozuna, and then the main event was Bret the Hitman Hart versus Yokozuna. So it's three men fighting for one championship. WrestleMania 20, once again, we had three men vying for the World Heavyweight Championship. We had Shawn Michaels, we had Benoit, and we had Triple H. And in this one, Shawn Michaels actually inserted himself. It was a legend being inserted into two current workers that weren't at legendary status yet, and it made the match better. The greatest triple threat match we've ever seen, or that I've ever seen. WrestleMania 30, we actually had another triple threat match, which was Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan at the time, Batista, and Randy Orton. And once again, a Hollywood celebrity, Batista at the time, had come in and he put over Bryan in the main event. So this person's tweet was indicating that maybe that's what we're getting. Night 2 of WrestleMania, it's going to be Cody versus The Rock versus Roman. And before I let you go, I just want to make this clear. The reason that I love this so much is because what if we've been looking at this wrong the whole time? What if all of this domination by Roman Reigns was exactly tailored to building and making Cody as the next face of the company. Let's say what Patty Regan talks about on Working the Marks is absolutely true, that Roman can't work as much as he used to because of his health, right? And they're trying to set up the next guy. Now, I firmly believe Cody beating The Rock and Roman in the same match would be a bigger impact on his career than him beating Roman straight up, especially if he beats The Rock. If that's the reason that keeps a feud with Roman open for the future, and The Rock can just go on his way. So what if that's the plan? What if it's to get to tell the world Roman's not the guy anymore? The tribal chief, yeah, that's his shtick, but the face of the company is now Cody Rhodes, and we are rocking with him from here on out.
I actually think that's great because one, it establishes Cody and he gets a win over one of the biggest stars of all time. Two, it keeps Roman strong because he didn't eat the pin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Honestly, the thought never crossed my mind because I feel like if they're going to do Rock versus Roman, it would be a one-on-one match.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would sell some windbreakers.
Absolutely, that would sell some windbreakers. I mean, let's be honest though here. Like, Rock versus Roman sells itself. Whether anybody wants to admit it or not, that's the thing. But the problem is the last time The Rock and Roman were in the ring together, they were getting booed out of the stadium. That was the Royal Rumble in which Roman won. So
That's almost poetic though, because it was in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
So to come
Exactly.
back and main
I'm so
event.
glad you got that. Yeah.
So we keep talking about it selling, but the reality is WrestleMania is gonna be sold out no matter what.
No matter what.
The gate's gonna be huge no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have traditional pay-per-view anymore, so it's not like we have to have pay-per-view buys.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you can't sell more than everything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up about the selling because I wanted to make a comment here on our show, and I was hoping you can give me an opinion on my comment here. So this is to the wrestling fans out there. WrestleMania is not Wrestle Kingdom. WrestleMania is not all in or all out. WrestleMania is not ECW and their strictly wrestling shows. WrestleMania is a spectacle. It is meant to be celebrity driven. It is meant to be like mainstream attention. And it's been that way since WrestleMania 1. So for people to be like, there is a lot of people that are angry that are like, why can't we just get like two wrestlers in the main event? Or why can't we just get like, why do we always need these celebrity matches? Like, this is what sold WrestleMania for 40 years. Like, it's like you're asking someone to stop selling something that they've been selling their entire time. It's the one thing they're not going to bend on. They're going to give us celebrity involvement.
Yeah, I think there's a way of involving them without having them in matches or at least main event matches. It can be a special ring announcer, a guest referee, a host. I got no problem if Bunny or Logan Paul want to be involved because they can both work.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like if you want, Snoop Dogg there, he could be a guest ring announcer. He doesn't have to, and like to his credit, he hasn't really had a match. He wasn't supposed to last year until Shane got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Or name anyone else. Snooki back in the day. She didn't have to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the issue that I have is you're putting these untrained people in these big spots and taking away from the established talent when they could still be involved in the show and a selling point without wrestling. Mike Tyson didn't wrestle, and that supposedly saved the company.
Mm-hmm.
So
now, I agree. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I know you know this about me. I'm one of these guys who likes to listen to the people who do the job. So, like, if a football player tells me this is my quarterback, I believe that person. If a baseball player says this is our manager that's going to get us over the top, I believe that baseball player. So, like, let me ask you, a couple of years ago, Sami Zayn was on Broken Skull with Stone Cold Steve Austin, and he was talking about his Johnny Knoxville match, and he was very clear that that is his favorite wrestling moment he's ever had. He said that when people look at this as like it was just a gimmicky match, that annoys me because I put a lot of time and effort into that match, and it's one of his most prized memories in professional wrestling, his core memory. If any fans of Inside out there, and that's why I'm asking, like, if wrestlers are telling us that they want celebrity involvement, why do you think so many fans don't like it, even though the wrestlers themselves enjoy it?
But that makes sense for a guy like him, right? Because he's in a mid card spot at that time, might not even been on the show if it hadn't been for that match.
Mhm,
And instead he gets a really high profile spot with a celebrity,
mhm.
and he made absolute chicken salad out of chicken shit.
I mean, he had just come off a banger of a match with Bryan in the COVID year, where for the Intercontinental Championship, where he got a massive win, where Bryan put him over and he retained the Intercontinental Championship. I mean,
Right, but there's
he
only
was
so
involved with Mania.
he had been, but there's also only so many spots for mid card matches, so that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be on next year.
Agreed,
Because I don't
agreed.
know what he'd done in the year since then. I don't think it was a whole lot. He did that
Uh,
conspiracy victim thing for a while, and that's kind of what
mhm.
got him in there with Johnny Knoxville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, and Sammy does good work, but it put him in a much higher profile spot probably than he otherwise would have been. So I can understand why to him that's a big deal, you know?
Yes, I agree with you there. I mean, the one thing that I would look at in terms of celebrity involvement is there's sometimes where I feel like celebrities are just so good at what they do. Like I've said this before on our show, and I'll continue to say this. Like Stephen Amell's in ring work, for the
Mm-hmm.
fact that he is a celebrity, the fact that he's so athletic that he's able to work in that style, like he is. I would love for him to come back. I think that would be great. But I feel like right now what they're doing is they're just trying to get the hot person. Now,
Right.
before we move on to another topic, since we're on Sami Zayn, let me ask you a question. Money in the Bank is in Toronto this year, and Sami Zayn is at the height of his popularity. When he comes back, those fans are going to be crazy. Am I crazy to put my foot down right now and predict that Sami Zayn is going to be the next Money in the Bank?
I mean, it's a possibility. He's one of the guys in that sort of area that I could see that I could see winning it. Him, Gunther, a guy like a
Mhm.
Chad Gable, maybe. Um, that's the type of he's in that area in the card, and maybe even a little above those guys right now.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I love that you brought up Gunther because I have a theory on Gunther and I want to run it by you. And I know you don't typically like this type of storyline, but I'm
okay.
curious to see what you think about it. So my theory is that they're gonna pull an Asuka with Gunther. My theory is that no one's gonna beat him for the Intercontinental Championship. He's gonna drop the championship, tell the world that nobody's better than him, nobody can beat him, and then move on into the world title picture. What do you feel about that? How do you feel
Um,
about that?
I don't hate that in that regard.
Mhm,
Um, where he's like, yeah, I've outgrown this, this mid card bullshit. I want real competition.
mhm.
That to me is different than the guy just saying like, look, nobody can beat me in this entire company, and I'm leaving, and here's your belt, have fun.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'd be all right with that because I mean, I can't see anyone right now beating him, and
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think
imagine
that's
who they're going to give that type of rub to.
exactly. I mean, let's be honest. It feels to me like he is in such a spot in pro wrestling where why would you ruin his character by having him go out there and lose? Unless, as we've talked about this before, and I know you're not a big fan of this guy, but the last person to beat him was Braun Breaker. I mean, if he drops the title after WrestleMania
I
and
could
he
see
drops
that.
it to Braun, and Braun comes in as like hot right away, IC champ, and just starts like wrecking people, Goldberg style. They could redo the Goldberg thing. Although I am
Please,
very
please
excited about
don't.
Braun Breaker. Well, I think that they might be able to do it correctly instead of just making up numbers like 1 week it's 121 is the streak, and then the very next Nitro it's 155. Like it's just like, come on, man. But speaking of Braun Breaker, I was very excited about the potential of him and Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I had one more thing to add to the Gunther
Oh yes, go
people
ahead.
people that could possibly come in and beat him for that title.
Okay.
There's a guy in Japan who's apparently finishing up there pretty soon
Hmm.
because they just got Okada.
Yeah, that would be great because it would be nobody from this company can come in and beat us, and then you would have Okada come in.
Yeah, I really hope I know I'm a big AEW fan, as we all know, but I really hope Okada goes to WWE because I really think that's a better spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I'm excited about the potential of what Will Ospreay is going to mean in WWE, but I kind of agree with what Disco Inferno said this week, which was the
Wait,
reason
what?
that nobody's talking about it, the reason that
Wait,
nobody
what?
cared is
Will Ospreay
what? Yes, Will Ospreay.
signed with AEW.
Yes, I know. That's
You
what I'm
said
talking about.
WWE.
Oh, okay.
I was
Will
very
Ospreay.
confused for a second.
Yes, sorry about that. So the reason that Will Ospreay's thing with AEW, his signing, isn't a bigger deal in the wrestling circuit is because, as Disco really it just told us, he already wrestled there. He was
Right.
the Forbidden Door. There was no surprise. We kind of like a lot of fans. We kind of knew that's where we're going. Like I know for myself, I wanted him to go to WWE. That's what I wanted, but that doesn't mean that that's what he was going to do. I really like again, Disco said like I thought he was going to bet on himself. I thought he was going to go over there, break the mold, and I said on our show here, I thought he was going to come in like AJ Styles. I thought he was going to come in, go right to the main roster, and make a big deal immediately. But obviously, he chose AEW. He thinks he can be the catalyst to bring in ticket sales, and he thinks he can be the guy who moves the needle in terms of watching. I mean, yeah, I don't want. I can't really agree with you, D. Like that. Thanks for joining the show, by the way, guy. I can't really agree with you, D, because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if they're going to move forward, and if the Edge and Christian storyline is any indication, if the fact that every single week that Sting is wrestling someone, they are marketing it as Sting's like final match. Like next week, he's wrestling the Workhorsemen, him and Darby, and everybody's really excited for all the indie wrestling fans out there that the Workhorsemen are getting this spotlight. And then they're marketing it. This is Sting's final match in Charlotte. And it's like, all right, that's a way to get fans to tune in.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. It's just like the Meltzer and Brian Alvarez lie. That worked this week. Dynamite was up to 800,000 because people thought Mercedes was going to debut. So whether they were a part of it, whether they were leaked bad information, I got to be honest with you. I didn't have a way to watch Dynamite, but I know Patty Regan from Working the Marks, he said he watched the show because he thought Sasha was going to debut. So how many other people, smart-minded wrestling fans, tuned in on Wednesday just to see her debut?
Yeah, maybe. The only thing I'll say is there was no Tony Khan has a big announcement, so I kind of knew right then that nothing like that was going to happen. I actually have not seen the show.
Yeah, I agree. Adam Copeland and Christian, that's right. We don't want to get sued. Adam Copeland, you're right. Speaking of this, I was having a conversation with someone the other day, and they were bringing this up, and they actually made a great point. Wrestling fans, AEW fans, are desensitized to Tony Khan's big announcement. Would you say that because he has so many of them? How many
usually
times?
they're not big announcements.
Yes. How many times do you think that they can pull the card they just pulled to get people to tune in before wrestling fans kind of like, yeah, I'm not expecting that to happen? Like having Alvarez and having Dave Meltzer say like, she most definitely is going to debut on Wednesday. Like we're expecting Mercedes to be there. How many times do you think they can pull that before fans kind of, say, hey man, I don't believe you. I'm not watching.
I wonder if it'll be like a you know how sometimes like I know Jericho did it once where he came back and like he came out to the ring and he got the mic and he looked around and he didn't talk, and then for weeks he didn't talk. I wonder if it'll be something like that where they're like, oh, no, she's definitely here this week. No, she's definitely here this week. Like last year with Cody, or a couple years ago now, I guess with Cody, everyone thought Cody was coming every week until he finally just debuted at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I
It
agree.
could be something like that.
I don't know. Obviously here, from the dungeon says that you got to keep me in check so we don't get sued. So don't let me.
Listen, I'm not allowed to correct him. He gets very upset.
Yeah, but you're gonna have to correct me for mentioning Adam Copeland's WWE name. But since the Pitbull was mentioned on here, and that is my moniker here on the show, I wanted to talk about another Pitbull that had a fucking phenomenal showing on Monday night. Ivy Nile.
Oh yeah, okay.
So let me give you a little sneak peek behind the curtain here. Pat he went to the MSG show on December 26th, as we know, he told us on Working in Mars he was going to do that. He took his children. He said on that show that Zoe Stark, Rhea Ripley, and Ivy Now, they wrestled a triple threat match, and the crowd was rocking for the Pitbull. Like she's over, man. She is over right now. And what we saw on Monday night, it was once again Rhea Ripley showing the world that like anybody she's in there with, she's gonna make look like $1 million. And she made Ivy look phenomenal, man. Do you think that Ivy has the potential to be a like future like star in WWE?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Again, it's all going to depend on how she's used. But she's still young enough, and she's already being, used like an established star. So, and that's something they need to do is to build up that division, which they've done a great job of in the last few months. With girls like
Maxine Dupree.
Yeah, I'm forgetting
Zoe
her
Stark.
name. Yeah, her. Why do I always forget her name?
I don't know, but she's amazing. I'm so excited for her future, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again. She has the best theme song in professional wrestling right now, guys. It's on Spotify. Go listen to it. It is if you like CM Punk's Kill Switch Engage song, which I do, this song is awesome. If you like Batista's theme song, this song is awesome. It is. I mean, sometimes it's on my work playlist. I just throw my beats in my earbud, like my Beats earbuds in, and I just listen to it as I'm like throwing product, and I'm just like, wow, man, this song is so catchy. Sometimes I'll like tap on the earbud and I'm like, repeat song. Like I like it so much. So moving on from there, one thing I wanted to ask you about is your take on the Devil storyline with Adam Cole. There's been a lot of discourse out there that he's been relegated to a manager and that Vince McMahon is kind of right. But that's not the discourse I want to talk. If you want to touch on that, absolutely touch on that. But before you do, I wanted to ask you, are we really watching the same exact storyline play out in two different stories at this on the same program? Because Adam Cole told us once Wardlow wins the world title, he's going to forfeit it to him. Isn't that what Christian's doing right now? Why would we even introduce that as a possibility of a storyline if that's something that we've already been given in that company?
I guess maybe just to show that he's the man in charge of that group. I don't think that's what'll happen. I think more likely that's where Wardlow breaks off from the group because he's like, look, no, I'm not giving you this. If that in fact even happens.
Yeah, I don't see Wardlow as the guy beating Joe. I'm sorry, I just don't see that.
As far as the manager thing, like he's hurt, right? So we're trying to keep him in the loop. So right now he's a mouthpiece. He's but like it is a similar role to what Christian was playing without making fun of as many dead parents.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I actually think that they've done a very clever. I like the way they did it. I like that they're getting some underutilized guys who do have some talent involved. Like I don't understand how Matt Taven's not a huge star. For one,
I don't know, man.
I know Mike Bennett has had some issues that he's had to overcome, so that may have held him back a bit. Roddy's fine. And Wardlow obviously is someone that they believe is going to be a huge star, needs to be rebuilt at this point.
Well, to be honest with you, I do believe that Wardlow could come out the best out of this entire group. But in terms of feud and what they're going to do, this is one of those things where I'm going to come off as a hater, but at the same time, I'm going to give props to Adam Cole here. So I believe that this is why in the long scheme of things, I think that Adam Cole is more valuable than MJF, because I think that the Undisputed Kingdom feuding with Bullet Club Gold is going to be the best thing that ever happened to Jay White, because immediately he comes out and now Jay White's a babyface, and now he's got the guns with him. Well, he already had the guns with him, and then now he has the added help of the Acclaimed going after the 5 men in the Undisputed Kingdom. And I thought to myself, this was great. Like, as soon as Jay White was introduced and jumped down Adam Cole's throat, the fact that Adam Cole played the little slimy scaredy cat and scooted out of the ring as quickly as possible, like, keep them away from me. I was like, this is brilliant. Like, I'm more invested in Bullet Club Gold versus Undisputed Kingdom than I was the entire time for MJF and Adam Cole. I think that speaks volumes.
Maybe. I mean, it's a good story. And it's a good way to rebuild, kind of rebuild Jay White from some of these L's he's been taking. And establish him again. Well, not even necessarily again, but
I think his
as
name
a
is
top
Jay
star.
White.
Also, there doesn't need to be a comma.
Yeah, but so speaking, I agree. I agree with you. I just think it's really great. Before we move on to our final big topic of the day, which is we're going to touch a little bit on Wrestle Kingdom. I wanted to ask you a question. So it was announced yesterday by Mike Santana
I saw this.
that he's going to be wrestling Homicide. And I was very excited. I was like, yo, we're getting this is going to be really good. Like, Homicide is that old school cat from Jersey, like that Brooklyn, New York guy. He or the Bronx. I don't really remember where he's from, but Homicide is a big deal in the indie circuit in New Jersey. And I'm excited for him wrestling Mike Santana, who's now the House of Glory World Heavyweight Champion. And it seems like he's immediately just going out there defending that title left and right. Has there been any independent wrestling matches that you've looked forward to as much as the way I'm looking forward to this match here?
I don't think so. Maybe Cody's debut.
Okay.
I forget it. I don't even remember who he wrestled now. But
I don't know, but
I remember I paid for the show.
Oh, okay. All right.
I remember it was in Joppa, Maryland.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have a pretty shitty comment here by D. He says, Homicide hasn't been the same since TNA. Listen, he has to wrestle one match. That's all he's got to do. That's it. Wrestle one match. Put over Mike Santana.
He says he hasn't been a name.
Oh, he hasn't been a name. Yeah, but that's all he has to do. That's all he has to do, though. He just has to go out there and he just puts himself. And anybody from that area knows who he is, man.
Yeah,
those guys.
A big star there.
Yeah, man. I mean, he was a big deal. Don't forget, he's not only was he a big deal in Jersey All Pro Wrestling, he was a big deal in Ring of Honor because he's the guy who ended Bryan Danielson's title reign. He was the guy that beat Bryan Danielson for the Ring of Honor Championship. That mattered, especially back then. But yeah, so moving on, there was a really big show the other day, Tyler.
Sorry. I didn't.
No, you're good. Moving on, there was a really
His
big show
raisins
the
were
other
that loud.
day. Yeah, we had Wrestle Kingdom, and that was at the Tokyo Dome in Japan. And man, so far the show has gained widespread love from wrestling fans all over the globe. We were able to see, we saw that, Nick Nemeth debuted. Also, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler. That's exactly what he's being marketed as. Formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, now Nick Nemeth. And we also saw Matt Riddle in a pretty cool spot. He rolls up in a Mercedes, like very Fast and the Furious style. And he pops out and he's got the slides on, but he's wearing slacks and the white button up with a tie. He's got a hair all done up nice. And, he challenges Tanahashi for the title he had just won. I was very excited for the Dolph Ziggler promo. I thought that it was a great promo. It's circulated everywhere for him and going after David Finlay. Clearly, he's not going to win the title because Japan doesn't do booking like that. But him coming in, putting over David Finlay, and not only that, but putting over the title in the way he did, a brand new championship. That's a way to do it right there.
Right.
What did you think of these little clips that came out for Wrestle Kingdom with, Westerners coming over or going over?
Like that. I think it's exciting to bring in, guys like this, and especially if they're come in and do put over and enhance the talent that's currently there. I think it's good experience for both them and the guys that they'll be working with to maybe work a little different hybrid Japanese American style.
Mm-hmm. I disagree with this comment, by the way.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll say that it's probably gone down in popularity. There are a lot of, and I don't even know a lot of their names, but I know there are a lot of guys there that I've seen that I'm like to see more of you.
But there are guys over there that still carry weight, like Naito still carries weight.
Sure.
Zack Sabre Jr. still carries weight. Okada still carries weight. Tanahashi, Ishii, like these guys are very impactful in professional wrestling, and the fact that they've come over to the States and worked AEW as often as they had. Maybe wrestling fans have kind of enamored themselves with them and then followed and gotten the subscription to their product. So it kind of has been popular.
I love the TJP's over there now, TJ Perkins, and they were in a tag match, and the story was that they'd gotten beaten down by the team they were facing. So like, why are they facing them again for the titles or whatever? And TJ had turned into some mythical creature that eats people in the Philippine jungles or something.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of cool. His entrance was really cool. The match was fun. There's just a lot of it's very different from the story-driven product that we're used to. I think it's kind of a lot of what AEW wants to be.
That's a great point. That's a really great point.
And maybe eventually they'll get there, but it's more match.
That would be something.
That would be pretty dope.
Yeah, that would be pretty dope because I think there's a lot of people that have fantasy booked Randy Orton and Okada. So
yeah, that's the one I was going to say because
they are very similar, even though obviously Okada being such a big deal over there, Randy Orton being such a big deal over here. Since we're going to talk about Okada, why don't we end this and then we could touch on something after we end this. But I watched Bryan Danielson versus Okada 3 times. Or 4 times, really. I watched it again yesterday with Arthur. This match might be the greatest technical wrestling match I've ever seen. Like the way that they worked in this match, the way that I mean, it was I don't even I'm at a loss for words. Even the way that Okada sold his injury after the actual match. Um and Brian beat the shit out of him. Like I don't even know how to describe it, but like Brian, like this was the opposite of what we saw at Forbidden Door. This was Brian just like he obliterated this guy, and then Okada got his licks in, but it was very different. The style was slower pace. It was definitely Japanese style. It speaks to what Brian's able to do, in a different spot, how he can kind of go work your style in your place and be very good at it. I love the show of respect at the end of the match. I thought it was awesome. I loved I loved all of it, and I loved Brian selling that his eye was so bad that he didn't even know where to go when the show ended. That was such a little funny moment there for me. Were you able to watch this match?
So I haven't seen this match yet. I'm working my way through the show.
Okay.
It's a long show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what I will say is Brian Danielson is, and this is cliche, but he's exactly like a fine wine. He just gets better every single time that he goes out there. The work that he's done in the past couple of months is as good as anything I've ever seen him do.
Mm-hmm.
And with the eye injury even.
Yeah, that is one of those very strange things. Like, I don't know how severe his eye injury is, but it looks like one of those things where, like, it may already be healed and he's
Maybe.
just selling the injury for later because even when he lost his eye patch in the match, he still continued to work with one eye closed. And
Okay.
that was a really brilliant take. I mean, I definitely enjoyed what I was watching. I enjoyed the crap out of like their respect towards each other, their style towards each other. Uh People say chops hurt. Obviously they do. Like every person that trains, you get put in a corner, you get chopped by the whole class. That's just a normal thing. It starts to get calloused on your chest to get you ready. But the one thing I will say is like that foot stomp when Brian's holding your hands, there's no way
Mhm.
that looks like that just doesn't look appealing. Uh, I haven't seen anybody as white as Brock Lesnar that's actually left a mark because if you go back to that Survivor Series match, like you could see the ASICS logo on Brock's face when Brian did it to him. But I mean, it definitely looks like he nails you harshly, and it's one of my favorite spots that he does. I tell you an insight into watching it here when he was doing that classic Brian, the elbows to the head as he's like has both your arms, like he was hitting so hard, and Arthur doesn't really know that it's this part of his arm hitting his chest. It just looks like he's hitting him in the head. Arthur was just like, he's gonna break his head. He's gonna pop his head off. Why does he keep doing that? And I was like, man, that's Brian for you. So I love that. I love that even him being pushing 40, he's still making wrestling so believable that a 7-year-old thinks that he's genuinely hurting Okada.
I'm glad you mentioned the chops though. The dynamite that I went to last week, uh, him and Eddie had a little chop fest,
Mm-hmm.
and people around me weren't too into it, but I was reminded of a story that Kevin Steen told. Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, he was Kevin
Mm-hmm.
Steen at the time, told on his weekend escapades back in the day. He's like, it's gonna be a rough night. I'm wrestling Eddie Kingston, and when Eddie Kingston chops you, you shit yourself.
Wow.
So,
I
so
probably
that
shouldn't have taken a drink of coffee right there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that goes to talk about how tough Brian is because they chop the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're yeah, I mean, if you remember back, Brian's second match in WWE when he came back after injury was the biggest Royal Rumble ever.
Oh, jeez.
And in that match, Roderick Strong was one of the 40 men. or one of the 50 men, or however many men were in that match. And Roddy welled up his chest immediately. Like Brian, it was almost like Brian asked for it. He was
Yeah,
the
Roddy's
Iron Man
another
in
one
that.
that is notorious for the chops.
Yeah, I mean, he's if Dean Malenko and like I don't know. I don't know how to describe him. He's like if Dean Malenko and JD McDonough had a baby. That's what he's like. Um yeah.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what he's like. I got to be honest with you before we go here. I wanted to give flowers to JD McDonough because I know we've talked about him a lot on the show. We've compared him a lot to a certain wrestler, but my God, me and Pat were having a love fest about him. He looks the best right now in the Judgment Day. He's the most like appealing person. Every time he's on screen, it is hilarious. He's selling his character really well. He's showing so much, and I gotta be honest with you, man. I'm really excited about what he could do in the future. I mean,
Yeah, he's definitely really talented.
mhm.
The only thing I'll say on that is the Judgment Day has become like a comedy act, and I don't
Yes.
really like it. Like, why did we need to go this direction? This was the top group in the company, or at least on Raw. They were opening the show every week. They were, big bad heels, and now all of a sudden they're, our truth there. He's eating whatever.
Well, I mean, they have a champion that's never gonna lose her title, and
Mhm.
because it doesn't matter who wins the Royal Rumble, she's beating that person. Becky's not going to win to take the title off her at WrestleMania. I don't see that happening.
That doesn't
If
make any
Liv
sense.
Morgan comes in, we know she's definitely not going to. Although there have been rumors that Liv Morgan's story is already in place and it does not involve Rhea Ripley or the title. So when we get there, we get there. Um, the last thing I wanted to do, I thought would be kind of fun, is I wanted to talk to you about what I saw in NXT this week, because a lot of fans were out there throwing shade at Sasha Banks, saying that WWE gifted the bank statement to Roxanne Perez. And I was laughing at this because she's not doing the bank statement. She's doing the crippler crossface.
Mm.
She puts the arm in between her legs and she pulls back just like the crippler did. And I
Mm.
thought to myself, it's funny that wrestling fans only go back so far that they think that Sasha Banks invented this move.
Well, I mean, we did delete the other guy, so
We did, but also like even the way Sasha did it, it didn't involve your arms. It was a backstabber and then just like wrenching your neck back. So what do you think of wrestling fans just like making up history as they go?
Well, like I said, the most of them probably haven't seen the other guy, and
Mhm.
so they don't realize that move has been around and was probably around before him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just think that we're old.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people that are there now are not even. I mean, that was 16 years, almost 17 years ago.
Mhm.
So, like, yeah, a lot of the people there wouldn't have seen it.
Agreed.
Um,
Agreed.
yeah, I got some stuff to say about Roxanne, but you're not gonna like it, so I'll just save it.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, save it for next week's episode. That'll give people some time to come back.
She said
Before
some
we
stuff, and she's supposed to be a mental health advocate, and I didn't like it. So, but we'll
Oh,
get into it.
all right. Sounds good. We'll start the show with Roxanne Perez on the next Must Love Wrestling episode. Before we go, I just wanted to touch on something really quick. Sometimes we are given the opportunity to peek behind the curtain and get to see a real life person. And Charlotte Flair is struggling with her injury. You can tell based on the words that she used in her most recent post. And she even signed it as Ashley. She didn't even sign it as Charlotte to let fans know. And I thought it was really insightful. And I loved how heartwarming it was that she told us that she's always been a bad guy. And this past year, she was a good guy, and that she genuinely that she genuinely loves being a good guy now. Like, it really meant a lot to her, all the handshakes, all the photos, everything. And I was just really happy for her. I watched the second video she posted where they're stretching out her leg. It was the first time she bent her leg since the injury, and just seeing the pain in her face. Sometimes you forget that these wrestlers have to deal with real life circumstances, and she's actually been lucky for a very long time. But it's always nice to see, that they're real people, remind the world of that. And there was a lot of good stuff. And, Kurt Angle, once again, jumping on the grenade, telling the world that she's the best all around performer today. So, I mean, I can't disagree with him because I
I
think,
gotta,
uh, you know,
I gotta, because you asked me something that you wanted to talk about on our next show, and I
uh
completely forgot about it until now. And you said that name.
okay.
Um, I'm not going to get into the best all around performer because I don't agree, but she's great and we miss her, and I hope she gets well soon.
Mhm.
But you sent me something. Kurt Angle said that back in the day, Hardcore Holly would have just like
Oh, yeah.
beat up CM Punk, and
Hmm.
then what would that have accomplished? He'd still have been in the mid card. He would have done nothing.
Yeah.
Congrats, like you're a bully. Good
I
for
mean, he
you.
tried to bully Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar broke his neck. So, I mean, sometimes you pick on the wrong fucking person.
Right, and I realized CM Punk didn't do so well in the UFC, but let's not forget he is MMA trained and can probably take care of himself.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that, I mean, you don't know. Obviously, Hardcore Holly can beat up people when they're not fighting back, like, like that guy Matt from Tough Enough, because he thought that was a part of his like ribbing. But
Right.
let's see it happen when somebody like Punk, who just beat up 3 children, because he did do that. He did beat up Jack Perry and the Young Bucks. I mean, so
Did he?
yeah, I mean, it sounds like it because I can't see why else they would want him out of the company. I think it's really funny that the Young Bucks wanted him out of the company and that they won't even show their fucking faces on TV. Like, that's so weird. Like, go help your company. You think you're not marketable for the company? Like, hey, the Young Bucks are
No, there's
wrestling.
something going on there
Hmm.
on a personal, and they wouldn't say what it was. It's something personal that's going on because one of their wives was a big part of the marketing in the company, and
Hmm.
she just left as well.
Well, and that would
So
be interesting.
there's something going on. There's more to that story. I don't know what it is, but
Okay. Well, that's our time for the week, guys. We are going to go enjoy time. I believe Tyler is he's traveling today. And myself, I'm going to go spend some time with the kids and make some pateles and some arroz con gandules and pernil. We're going to go make some traditional Puerto Rican food here, as we do here in the Rodriguez house. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. And don't forget, come back next week so we can listen to what Tyler has to say about Roxanne Perez.
you're gonna have to
Very
remind me.
excited about that.
You're gonna have to
I will.
remind me.
I put it in my
Um,
notes as you were
okay,
talking about the Hardcore Holly thing.
because it's been a
Yeah,
couple weeks and
so
I meant to say it and I didn't, and now it's too late in the show.
no, it's all good. It's all good. So thank you guys so much for tuning into our show. This is just a nice short one for you. Don't forget that our shows are transferred over to audio form as well. So if you have Apple or you have Spotify or Spreaker, all of our shows, whether they're video or whether they're the car pod I do in the morning, they all go right to audio and you can listen to all of our stuff. So if you didn't have time to sit here and listen to us today, listen to us tomorrow. Maybe you're driving somewhere. Maybe you're going to the gym. Maybe you're going to the dog park. Maybe you're on your way to go see the Iron Claw, whatever you're going to go see. I'm very excited about watching that movie. I believe Tyler's going to see that today.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make this clear. This movie it sounds like it's great. I just don't understand why it's being marketed the way it is, because Carrie was the most popular uh like Von Erich, and he always will be. So I don't know if they're trying to rewrite history or whatever they're doing. But from what I've
No, sorry, I'll let you finish.
no, that's it.
Because who was the first one that passed? Was it David?
I believe so.
The one that died in Japan. He was supposed to be just this massive star, bigger than Kerry ever was. Kerry got the NWA title and all that, and because it was a feel-good moment in Texas at the Parade of Champions for his brother's memorial show or whatever.
He also won the Intercontinental Championship as a with a stupid name like the Texas Tornado.
He did, but his WWE run wasn't.
I don't know. I was a fan of his.
Well, yeah, but we were little kids.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, yeah, exactly. He was a babyface, and yep. Although I did like Mr. Perfect more. Top 10 all time. I don't give a fuck who you are.
For sure.
Yeah, top 10 all time. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, we're out.
Later.